Local history. Local history refers to a written record of past events relating to local situation. National histories actually sprouted from the contribution of local history. In other words, there was local history before there was national history. Ang lokal na kasaysayan ay tumutukoy sa nakasulat na record sa mga nagaganap noon na may kaugnayan sa lokal na sitwasyon. Ang mga pambansang kasaysayan ay talagang umuusbong mula sa mga kontribusyon ng lokal na kasaysayan. Sa madaling salita, may lokal na kasaysayan bago nagkaroon ng pambansang kasaysayan. Ang lokal na kasaysayan ay mga lugar na mayroong iba't ibang kasaysayan na nakakonektado sa pambansang kasaysayan. The following are the controversial issues. Importance of local history. Number 1, local history enriches our understanding of our national history. It provides with the documentation and analysis of the birth process which are important to the life of the people. It is more than the study of towns, provinces, and region of the Philippines and the people who live there. Ang una, ang lokal sa kasaysayan ay napapayaman sa ating pag-unawa sa pambansang kasaysayan. Nagbibigay sa atin ng yaman sa pag-unawa sa pambansang kasaysayan. Nagbibigay ito ng dokumentaryo ng kaalaman na maging importansya sa ating buhay. Kagaya ng sinabi ko kanina na ang lokal na kasaysayan ay ang pag-aaral sa iba't ibang mga bayan, lalawigan at rehiyon ng Pilipinas at sa mga taong naninirahan dito. Number 2. More importantly, it encourages creative and innovative response to develop with people with special talents and potential, provides more room for local initiatives to develop and for local potentials to implies an exercise of freedom with limited control or influence from the national government. Local history along with oral history is basic to autonomy. Hinikayat nito ang likhain at makabagong mga tugon sa pag-unlad kasama ang mga taong may espesyal na talento at potensyal. Nagbibigay din ng higit na puwang para sa lokal na inisyatiba upang umunlad at para sa mga lokal na potensyal na magpahiwatig ng paggamit ng kalayaan na may limitadong kontrol o impluwensya mula sa pambansang pamahalaan. Number 3. It is actually a reservoir of local data and memories of events, realities, and things that provide the essences of local life. History is defined as an organized record of meaningful past. Ito ay talagang isang reservoir ng local data at mga alaala ng mga kaganapan, realidad at mga bagay na nagbibigay ng mga esensya ng lokal na buhay. Ang kasaysayan ay tinutukoy bilang isang organisadong talaan ng isang makabuluhang nakaraan. Number 4. The Philippines has a strong and varied source of local history because it has 16 regions, 78 provinces, 151 municipalities, 69 cities, 41,925 barangays, and over 100 ethno-linguistic groups. Local history provides the vital task of putting the meaningful essence of community in space and time. Ang Pilipinas ang may matibay na iba't ibang pinagmulan ng kasaysayan. Ang lokal na kasaysayan ay nagbibigay ng mahalagang gawain ng paglalagay ng makabuuhang diwa ng komunidad sa espasyo at panahon. National history seeks together all diverse groups. By their very nature, both help unite the nation as an example of unity in diversity. Hinahanap ng kasaysayang pambansa ang lahat ng may kakaibang grupo sa pamamagitan ng kanilang likas na katangian ay parehong tumutulong sa pagkakaisa ng bansa bilang isang halimbawa ng pagkakaisa sa pagkakaiba. Number 6. Filipino historiography incorporates both approaches to national history. The difference of Hispanic historiography is that it autocratic and prescriptive while the American is liberal and democratic. Ang historiografiyang Pilipino ay nagsasama ng parehong mga pagdulong sa pambansang kasaysayan. Ang pagkakaiba ng Hispanic historiography ay ang autokratiko at preskriptibo habang ang American ay liberal at demokratiko. Number 7. In short, national history without local history is shallow, just as local history without national interest is parochial and divisive. It must derive substance and sustenance from local history data before it can establish generalization. Sa madaling salita, ang pambansang kasaysayan na walang lokal na kasaysayan ay mababaw tulad ng lokal na kasaysayan ng walang pambansang interest ay parokyal at dibisyon. Dapat itong makakuha ng sustansya at sustento mula sa lokal na data ng kasaysayan bago ito makapatatag ng mga generalization. Source in local history. History without sources is like a bird without wings. Sources are the foundation of historical data and information. However, not all historical works with sources are commendable. This brings to the question on what sources to use and how to use them for historical construction. From interviews, which present the main focus of oral history as a methodology, written source such as reports, correspondences, speeches, memorial, petites, and any printed matter available. Historical sources may be generally divided into two. Secondary accounts, which include accounts by individuals with some valid information from eyewitness. Primary accounts such as eyewitness accounts. Ang kasaysayan ng walang pinagmulan ay parang ibong walang pakpak. Dahil paano natin malalaman ang mga kaganapan dati kung walang pinagmulan ng pagkuha ng impormasyon tungkol sa lokal na kasaysayan? Hindi lahat ng pinagkukunan ng mga impormasyon ay kapuri-puri din, kasi maraming mga bali-balita tayong nalalaman pero hindi pala ito tama. Kaya dinadala nito ang tanong kung anong mga mapagkukunan ang gagamitin at kung paano gamitin ang mga ito para sa makasaysayang pagtatago. Ang kasaysayang mapagkukunan ay karaniwang nahati sa dalawa. Una, ang primary accounts, ito yung mga taong nakasaksi or nakakakita mismo sa mga pangyayari or nagaganap. Ang ikalawa ay ang secondary accounts. Ito yung mga taong may nalalaman ding mga impormasyon galing sa primary accounts or sa mga taong mismong nakasaksi sa mga nagaganap.
Mythology of local history. Not everything which happened in the past is worth researching. History is an academic discipline in which we look back where we came from, how things changed, and what particular path we have taken, for what persons, and why we are here now. It must be an original work, not a recycling or rehearsed work that has been written countless of times. It should present new information or at least a new perspective, insight, or interpretation. Any historical work that does not cite its sources is not credible because it cannot be cross-verified. Proper attributes through a bibliography with footnotes and endnotes. Clarity of presentation or narrative. A good research must have a good grammar. Thirdly, basic academic requirements must be met. Other forms of local histories are features, articles in local and national newspapers, which contain stories about events in towns and cities. These take form in souvenir programs by countless town fiestas and similar community celebrations. Local history actually has a long tradition in the country. Local historians serve as interpreters to the larger world and can conversely interpret the larger world to the local community. He will have the advantage of the vernacular or the local language in using local sources, especially oral. It is a source of pride for local historians to leave people of their own culture, write about their ethnic group, their hometown, or home province. The history of a question or a province can be best researched by the people of the locality themselves. We all know that history is more complex than many people realize, no for real. It is so much more than memorizing names, dates, and places. History is very much scientific. It involves critical thinking, formulating hypotheses based on evidence, and testing them. Historical methodology is a process by which historians gather evidence and formulate ideas about the past. It is the framework through which the account of the past is constructed. Basically, any historical work that does not cite its sources is not credible because it cannot be cross-verified. We should always remember that a good research must have a good grammar, clarity of presentation, proper attributes to a bibliography with footnotes and endnotes, and basic academic requirements must be met. Prerequisites of local history. These materials are useful in learning activities and make lectures and class presentations relevant to help you find leads in your own research. This helps you from duplicating earlier research. A local historian must be familiar with the historical literature of his region. Compilation of articles by Alfred McCoy and Ed De Jesus in the Philippine Social History, like Global Trade and Local Transformation, Washington Scott's Cracks in the Parkman Curtain, and documentary source for the study of the prehistory of the Philippines provide an excellent data as well as theoretical framework. The previous works may provide a guide in writing. This means that the local historian needs to have some preparation before writing a historical account. He or she must have a good grasp of the national history of the Philippines. This does not mean a memorization of obscure or irrelevant trivia, but a familiarity with the general developments and trends of national significance. Examples are the nature in colonialism, the process of nation building, the building of anti-colonial sentiment, and the impact of global trade in local economies. The understanding of national history enables the local historian to place in a larger context of local developments. To achieve this, one may use as reference national history textbooks such as the compilation of articles by Alfred McCoy and Ed De Jesus in the Philippines Social History. It provides an excellent data as well as theoretical framework. Selecting a research topic. Another area is institutional history, such as the history of an academic institution or a business company. It is up for the researcher to use his creativity and insight in unearthing and retrieving data from local sources. Local primary sources are now available for all these topics. Women histories is now increasingly popular. Cultural history includes changes in the practices of the communities such as the Tingulanes and the Payaws. Ibig sabihin, nasa paraan ang mananaliksik gamitin ang kanyang pagkamalikhain at pananaw sa paghukay at pagkuha ng data mula sa mga lokal na mapagkukunan. Ang mga lokal na pangunahing mapagkukunan ay magagamit na ngayon para sa lahat ng mga paksang ito. Ang mga kasaysayan ng kababaihan ngayon ay lalong nagiging popular. Kasama sa kasaysayang pangkultura, ang mga pagbabago sa mga gawin ng mga pamayanan gaya ng Tingulanes at Apayao. Do not alter data that you encounter just because it trends against what you believe is the correct information or your projected conclusions. Do not mix two or more topics in one note card. If you come across a new topic, start with a new note and to avoid confusions later. Take notes carefully, especially of direct quotes, to ensure accuracy. Use note cards or note paper because papers of uniform size is easier to carry, store, and organize. Ibig sabihin, huwag baguhin ang mga data na nakatagpo mo dahil lang sa ito ay sumasalungat sa pinaniniwalaan mong tamang impormasyon o sa iyong inaasahang konklusyon. Huwag paghaluin ang dalawa o higit pang mga paksa sa isang note card. Kung makatagpo ka ng isang bagong paksa, magsimula sa isang bagong tala upang maiwasan ang pagkarito sa ibang pagkakataon. Maingat na kumuha ng mga tala, lalo na sa mga direktang panipi upang matiyak ang katumpakan. Gumamit ng mga note card o note paper dahil ang mga papel na may pare-parehong laki ay mas madaling dalhin, iimbak at ayusin. Practical guidelines for data gathering. There may be other practical steps which you have found useful and which work is best for you. Take proper care of primary materials such as old photographs, transcript, or maps. Such materials are extremely rare and one of a kind and need special handling. Organize your data into primary and secondary sources according to major topics or chronologically. Always indicate the source of information such as the title and the date of a document, or the bibliographic data for the printed materials such as book pamphlets and magazines. These are based on the best and analysis and summation of your finding. Analysis. This is your explanation and interpretation of the data that you have provided, and that this explains your analytical framework or theory that you employ. Test. This is the main bulk of your written account. This must be scant and coherent. Ibig sabihin, kailangan mong kumuha ng wastong paggamit sa mga pangunahing materyales tulad ng lumang transcript, ng mga larawan o mga mapa. Ang mga naturang materyales ay napakabahirang at nangangailangan ng espesyal na paghawak. Ayusin ang iyong data sa pangunahin at pangalawang mapagkukunan ayon sa mga pangunahing paksa o ayon sa pagkasunod-sunod. Palaging ipahiwatig ang pinagmulan ng mga impormasyon tulad ng pamagat at petsa ng isang dokumento or bibliograpikong data para sa mga nakatimbang na materyales tulad ng mga pamphlet at magasin ng mga aklat. Ang mga ito ay batay sa pinakamahusay at pagsusuri at pagpupuod ng iyong paghahanap. Ang pagsusuri, ito ang iyong paliwanag at interpretasyon ng data na iyong ibinigay at ipinapaliwanag nito ang iyong analytical framework o teorya na iyong ginamit. Ang pagsubok, ito ang pangunahing bulk ng iyong nakasulat na account. Dapat ito maskan at magkakaugnay. Bibliography. This is the listing of sources including books that were used which could be classified as primary or secondary, published or unpublished, oral or written. Endnotes or footnotes, these are required in academic research but may not be always applicable. Appendix and glossary, these are materials which could not be incorporated into the text but would add to the clarity and depth of your research. Ibig sabihin ito ang mga listahan ng mga mapagkukunan kabilang ang mga aklat na ginamit na maaaring mauli bilang pangunahin o pangalawa, na i-publish o hindi i-publish, pasalita o nakasulat. Mga endnote o footnote, ang mga ito ay kinakailangan sa akademikong pananaliksik ngunit maaaring hindi mga paraan na naaangkop. Appendix at glossary, ang mga ito ay mga materyales na hindi maaaring isama sa pagsusulit ngunit magdaragdag sa kalinawan at lalim ng iyong pananaliksik. Short comments on ethical issues in local history writings. In many instances, local historians allow their personal biases to distort their work by hiding certain unfavorable facts, misinterpreting events, and passing off false information as true, which result in the work becoming a propaganda instead of an accurate rendering of the past. Tendency of local historians to slant their narrative in favor of powerful families or portray a national personality in the hope of achieving reflective glory or gaining patronage and reward from that family. There is too much emphasis on local celebrities and personalities who may appear important but they are not the longest serving mayor or councilor. Sa maraming pagkakataon, pinahihintulutan ng mga lokal na historiador ang kanilang mga personal na pagkiling. Baluktutin ang kanilang gawa sa pamamagitan ng pagtatago ng ilang hindi kanais-nais ng mga katotohanan, maling pagbibigay kahulugan sa mga kaganapan at pagpapasa ng maling impormasyon bilang totoo na nagreresulta sa akda na maging isang propaganda sa halip na isang tampak na pagsalin ng nakaraan. Ang ugaling ng mga lokal na historiador na ihilig ang kanilang salaysay pabor sa mga makapangyarihang pamilya o maglarawan ng isang pambansang personalidad sa pag-asang makamit ang masasalamin na kaluwalhatian o makakuha ng pagtangkilik at gatimpala mula sa pamilyang iyon. Masyadong binibigyang diin ang mga lokal na kilalang tao at personalidad na maaring mukhang mahalaga, ngunit hindi sila ang pinakamatagal na nagsisilbing alkalde o konsihal. Do not pass off somebody else's work as your own, because this will be eventually found out. Plagiarism is an intellectual theft which discredits the author, and a plagiarized work has no value to the scholars. Never plagiarize. Always acknowledge and provide citation of your sources. Always cite in quotation marks every statement and phrase you lifted verbatim from a source. Huwag ipasa ang trabaho ng ibang tao bilang iyong sarili dahil malalaman din ito sa huli. Ang plagiarism ay isang intelektual na pagnanakaw na sumisira sa may akda at ang isang plagiarized na gawa ay walang halaga sa mga scholar. Huwag mang plagiarize, palaging kilalanin at ibigay ang pagsipi ng iyong mga mapagkukunan. Palaging panggitin sa mga panipi ang bawat pahayag at pariralang inalis mo sa verbatim mula sa isang pinagmulan. Doing so contributes an abuse of one's position, nor should you use their output without their permission and without giving them due credit. Do not make students or subordinates do your research work. Ibig sabihin, ang paggawa nito ay isang pang-aabuso sa posisyon ng isang tao. Hindi mo rin dapat gamitin ang kanilang output o data nang wala ang iyong pahintulot at nang hindi binibigyan sila ng nararapat na kredito. Huwag hayaang gawin ng mga mag-aaral o mga nasasakupan ng iyong gawaing pananaliksik.
Oral history. Oral history is a historical source of a special nature. Its special nature lies in the will's unwritten source of information which consists of verbal testimonies which are reported statements involving the past. Ang oral history ay isang historical source ng isang espesyal na nature. Ang espesyal na katangian nito ay namamalagi sa mga balon na hindi nakasulat na pinagmumulan ng impormasyon na binubuo ng mga pandiwang patutuo na iniulat ng mga pahayag na kinasasangkutan na ng nakaraan. Oral history is not a discipline history. It is only a methodology of history in which is an historical events are recounted by the eyewitness through the intervention of a historian. Ang oral history ay hindi isang kasaysayan ng disiplina. Ito ay isang pamamaraan lamang ng kasaysayan kung saan ang mga pangyayari ng kasaysayan ay isinasalaysay na nakasaksi sa pamamagitan ng interbensyon ng isang mananalaysay. The main technique of oral history is the interview. This technique goes as far as ancient time, including that Homer and Herodotus, who used the technique in their prototype of historical discourse. Ang pangunahing pamamaraan ng oral history ay ang pakikipanayam. Ang pamamaraan na ito ay napupunta sa malayong pera sa atin noong sinaunang panahon, kasama na sina Homer at Herodotus na gumamit ng pamamaraan ng kanilang prototype na makasaysayang diskurso. Its importance to modern historiography. To not suit for historical analysis, oral tradition can be used as traditional material. This come in the form of epic tales, genealogies, and legends. Oral tradition, this comes from collective consciousness of a people. Kahit na hindi angkop para sa pagsusuri ng kasaysayan, ang oral na tradisyon ay maaaring gamitin bilang tradisyonal na material. Dumating ang mga ito sa anyo ng mga epikong kwento, talang-angkanan at alamat. Oral tradition ito ay nagbula sa kolektibong kamalayan ng isang tao. Eyewitness account. Hearsay does not qualify as eyewitness account because the event was not witnessed by the narrator and remembered by the informant himself. Eyewitness account does not the fall of realm of oral tradition. Eyewitness accounts are given by people who are actually in the place of a historical event or were actually its participants. Ang sabi-sabi ay hindi kwalipikado bilang account ng saksi dahil ang pangyayari ay hindi nasaksihan ng tagapagsasalaysay at naaala ng mismong impormante. Ang mga salaysay ng mga nakasaksi ay hindi nahuhulog sa larangan ng oral tradition. Ang mga ulat ng saksi ay binigay ng mga tao na talagang nasa lugar ng isang makasaysayang kaganapan o actual na mga kalahok nito.
Hello everyone. Rumor account. Rumor account it becomes useful as historical source if it is corroboration by other source. Otherwise, it should be dismissed as an uncorroborated hearsay. It is transmitted from one person to another. A rumor is a verbal account which does not always concern the present. Ang rumor account ito ay nagiging kapaki-pakinabang bilang isang makasaysayang mapagkukunan kung ito ay pinapatunayan ng iba mga pinagmumulan. Kung hindi, dapat itong i-dismiss bilang isang uncorroborated. Ito ay ipinapadala mula sa isang tao patungo sa isa pa. Ang bulong-bulungan ay isang verbal account na hindi palaging may kinalaman sa kasalukuyan. The practice of oral history. Where writing documents are lacking oral history may be used as long as this is corroborated by other sources. The best example was created by Dr. Marcelino Foranda of De La Salle University, who organized students to conduct interviews of important personalities starting from the 70s. Oral history also gives the power to be marginalized, people who have no access to writing or could not write, or those who have no time to write history. Their view of the past being a talking people, Filipinos are full of oral histories. The information is the one who transmitted the information, and he plays an important role in the process of oral history. The important is the person or group of person who gives an account of the referent or that of which the account is given, the thing observed. An eyewitness account is the sum of the testimonies made and important concerning a single series of events or a single event. One should not use it as a justification to use uncorroborated accounts. Oral history helps fill the gaps in writing history. The The credibility and the reliability of the informant task of the research is to determine the reliability of the eyewitness account. Ang pagsasanay ng oral history. Ito ay kung ang mga nakasulat na dokumento ay kulang sa oral history ay maaaring gamitin hanggat ito ay pinatutunayan ng ibang mga mapagkukunan. Ang pinakamagandang halimbawa ay nilikha ni Dr. Marcelino Ferranda ng De La Salle University na nag-organisa ng mga panayam sa mahalagang personalidad noong dekada 70. Ang oral history ay nagbibigay din ng kapangyarihan sa mga marginalized na tao na walang akses sa pagsusulat o hindi marunong magsulat ng mga kasaysayan. Ang pagiging mapagsalitang mga tao. Ang mga Pilipino ay puno ng oral history. Ang impormante ay siyang naghahatid ng impormasyon at siya ay may mahalagang papel sa proseso ng oral history. The search for information. Their reputation is not tainted by dishonest. Their status must equip them with certain necessary information. Conversant with the information required, the informats must have the following. Not everyone is capable of supplying the information he needed. Ito ay kanilang reputasyon ay hindi nababahiran ng hindi katapatan. Ang kanilang katayuan ay dapat magbigay sa kanila ng kanilang kinakailangang impormasyon. Marunong sa impormasyong kailangan, ang mga mahalaga ay dapat mayroong mga sumusunod. Hindi lahat ay may kakayahang magbigay ng impormasyon kailangan niya.